Critical thinking is defined loosely as the ability to use the evidence around you to make a convincing argument. Now, my thesis for this video isn't that we cannot critical think anymore or that what critical thinking actually is. My argument is that I think we're losing the ability to think that way. Hi, if you just joined this channel, it's basically me just using YouTube as a personal journal to try to get better at talking to a camera, to articulating my thoughts, and to propose an argument or a way that I voice my opinion better than normal because I grew up homeschooled for a good majority of my life, and so I don't know how to talk to people, to put it simply. And I kind of want to use this just for practice. Maybe if talking to a camera, I can almost imagine that's a person, and hopefully I'll get better at speaking. And for my critiques from my last video, I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but whenever you have a thought in the back of your mind and you feel like you're talking in a good train of thought, and then suddenly that train stops and you just sit there like not sure what to say next, and then when it comes to you, you like say everything out really fast, all out loud, kind of like I just did now. Yeah, I want to stop that because it kind of ruins the flow of the conversation, and sometimes people don't know what you're saying or they kind of lose that train of thought that you had. So I'm going to try to talk more in a convincing and emotional manner with more smooth kind of talking. But that's pretty much all I have for critiques for my last video. I don't know about anyone else, but I really hate my voice. But to move to the main meat of this video, as I said before, critical thinking is basically able to see different perspectives on a situation or decision that you have to make. And it doesn't have to be you making it, it can also be in another person's situation, and you can use critical thinking in their situation. Most of the time, we're selfish and we're only going to think deeply if it regards ourselves. And just for example, of people that I think used a lot of critical thinking was the Greeks and the Romans way back in the BC and AD era, in early AD era. And the reason why I think that they kind of perfected this art of critical thinking, and to put it most simply, is that they didn't have a whole lot of time on their hands. Not like we do. Because, I mean, back then, world news didn't come to them every single day on a smartphone. If anything, world news came maybe 3 months after the event happened, or maybe even slower, depending on how quick they were to the event that actually happened. People that heard, people that lived in the Jordan kind of area didn't know what happened in the Vatican City till a month after it actually happened. So people that lived far away in their own little country town didn't really hear of things that are happening on around the world. Uh, and if they did, they had long periods of time before they actually got an update. Sometimes it would take a while to hear even what's happening in their own country state. If anything, they just heard news. The quickest news that got to them was what was happening in their town. And most towns back then didn't really have a whole lot of groundbreaking and earth shattering news that we seem to get every single day today. So they didn't really have a whole lot to think about or a whole lot of things that kind of took their attention from what they're actually thinking. If anything, most of the time they're just worried about their own job. And let's be honest, they worked the same job every single day. Sure, they had maybe some rest days, but they knew what they were doing every single day. If you work a 9 to 5, you do know what you're doing every single day, but to them, it was their entire life. And for most people, they maybe hold the same job for 4 or 5 years. So the reason why I say that and why I think critical thinking was so big back then is that people had a lot of time to think about every single decision or every single situation that was happening with them or around them. Basically, imagine you have a big decision coming up, um, and it's like maybe you're moving out of your house. Sure, you could try to think on it for 3 months, but that money doesn't work like that. Money comes and goes. You also have to worry about your own house that you're having, or and the rent that you have now. You have to think, what if your job changes within the next month? What if the economy goes up? What if the housing market goes up and suddenly it's out of your price range? So the world kind of presses on you to make a really major decision, not even about a house, about anything quickly. It forces you to think quickly and kind of gives you that sense of nervousness that if I don't act quickly enough, I'm going to lose it. And back then, people didn't really have that same kind of rush unless you're in political power, which most people were not. Most philosophers were not in political power. Some of them were nobles, but most of the time, they kind of kept their nobility for most of their lives. They didn't really have to worry about it being taken by someone. And so the ability to have the world slow down and to think about a decision in all perspectives in all possible ways gave a lot of them the best outcome. Um, and they're sort of able to kind of optimize and really think about deep meanings more than we can today. And that's just even gone worse with AI and TikTok and Instagram, because we are now focusing on that little dopamine rushes that we always think about things more shallow than I feel like we should really think about it. You don't really have a whole lot of people going around thinking what is the meaning of life and thinking about it longer than maybe a couple of days. Or maybe not even a couple of days, maybe for a couple of hours. They think, what is the meaning of life? Why am I here? What is my purpose? And most of the time, it just ends up to being, well, I'm here, so might as well just get on with it. It is what it is, kind of mentality. And I feel like that's what a lot of people get to because they don't have a whole lot of time to think about it or a whole lot of time to really give into some evidence or some different arguments other than what they've been taught in school. We've kind of been forced to kind of just be like, this is the truth, deal with it. We never really have been given a whole lot of time or a whole lot of push to really investigate things ourselves. Maybe you've heard it and by an offhand comment, but we've never really practiced it ourselves because the world doesn't give us the time to really dig into one thing a whole lot, unless you're given a specific degree and you want to go into your master's because you do want to learn about this specific situation. But that doesn't mean you get to learn about anything else. If that makes sense to you, I think that made sense. It made sense to me. So overall, my line that I'm getting to is that we're kind of losing the ability to critically think because the world is moving so much faster than it was way back then. And if you want to see some kind of blatant evidence, look at some poetry. Poetry back in the 1800s or 1900s is amazing. It is probably some of the best English writing you'll ever see because their vocabulary is so dense. They know how to perfectly describe these complex feelings with these words that hold so much meaning in them, and really just kind of shows off the dichotomy and the um like losing the word. But basically, the English language is an amazing language because of the way that it's built, and you can really put so much complex emotions and thoughts into a couple of words, and that's what the 1900s poetry really just focused on, was that ability to just how fewer words, harder English practices, but so much thought and meaning. And now, if you look up Instagram poems today, they're just shallow. They kind of have one main feeling or one main focal point that they focus on, but most of the time, the words are simple, within maybe 3 syllables, maybe four if you're lucky, if it's a really advanced poem, as they say. And you have to wonder why. And I think the reason why is because if you don't think of a poem faster than within a day, a couple of days, maybe even a couple of hours, people aren't going to see it. The algorithm's not going to bless you. You're not doing it fast enough. You can say, "Oh, I'm not doing it for the algorithm," but if you're not doing it for the algorithm but you do want to show people, then you kind of have to feed the algorithm, which is why I post daily. I've been thinking about these thoughts for a long time. I'm just now posting them now. So I'm not just thinking of critical thinking, oh, I thought that 5 hours ago. Let me talk about it. I've been thinking about this for a while. But even so, I might have to post daily because I do want people to see these videos and I do want people to practice and learn with me. But if I just post maybe once a week, I'm not going to have that much success, especially since I only have like 30 subscribers. That's the thing. That's the problem that the world presents us today. And it's sad, truly, because there is so much that we could probably, that I feel like our human minds are capable of. We're just not feeding it enough. We're not giving it the time to process. The mind can process lots of things very quickly, but also there comes a sort of patience that needs to be required if we really want to dig deeper into simple subjects that maybe we haven't thought of that much, or maybe that we just take for granted and haven't really investigated ourselves. It's an art that is slowly dying, and the more that we push into technology and the more we try to get easier things done lazier, the more it's disappearing. The more lazy and the more simple things get, the more that drive to be patient and to work hard kind of goes away. Now, I'm not saying that for everybody, but as someone that's currently young enough to be around college students and kind of the age that I'm growing up in, it's really seeming like people just don't have enough time to really think anymore. Or don't want to because it scares them. And it's so much easier if you just go with the flow and just let things be. And honestly, that really makes me sad. It really depresses me. But there's always hope at the end of the tunnel. Maybe this will somehow hit the algorithm and really get people my age to start thinking about things a little bit more. Why am I here? Where did we come from? what is the purpose of me being here? Now, I'm not trying to put you into a nihilistic view, but is there more to me than just a bag of bones? Like, just that kind of thought process. And so I implore you, if you see this, to really start thinking about it. And if you want to talk to me in the comments, I will respond to comments. I've had a couple already that have been really insightful and awesome, so keep doing that. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.